Good afternoon, everyone, and I am so glad that you are joining us this evening. My name is Angela Cooper Brathwaite. I'm the immediate past president of RNAO and one of the co-chairs of the task force. And tonight, our webinar is entitled The Power of Mentorship in Nursing Education. This webinar is our 8th in the series of webinars. Let's talk about anti-Black racism and discrimination in nursing. Now, please allow me to introduce Cosita Garaway, a nurse practitioner who is the co-chair with myself of the task force. Cosita, would you please go over the few housekeeping tasks for our participants before we get started today? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. So whether you have participated in the RNAO's previous webinars or are you attending for the first time, I'm going to let you know that you can participate by typing questions and or comments in the question and answer chat box throughout the webinar. You may raise your hand if you would like to speak, and we will unmute your line during the Q&As. Participation in the polls is optional, and the responses are kept anonymous. The webinar is being recorded. We will be posting it in the RNAO webinar event page. So tonight's webinar is scheduled to run from 6:30 until 8 p.m. and Doris Greenspan, our CEO of RNAO, will deliver the opening remarks. Tonight's webinar falls right within the month of February, and Angela is going to just want to take some time to celebrate our Black History Month. Then the first part of the webinar will be focused on checking the pulse on RNAO's Black nurses task force. Part 2 of the webinar will focus on our topic of the power of mentorship in nursing education. So we're delighted to host 3 amazing speakers who will be presenting and engaging in our panel discussion tonight. We have Ola Thomas Obewu, who I'm excited to say is also one of our members of our task force, Dr. Bukola Salami, and Birgit Umaigba. There will be an opportunity for a question and answer period, and we will close the webinar with a few calls to action and updates from the RNAO. Please allow me now to introduce Dr. Doris Greenspan to welcome you all tonight and set the stage for tonight's discussion on mentorship in the academic environment for Black nurses. Doris.
Doris, you just unmute there. Doris, you have to unmute.
Thank you so much for alerting me that I was on mute. So happy Black History Month, and to our colleagues in nursing that are Black nurses, a special happy Black History Nurses Month too. Why not, right? Mm-hmm. So hopefully this month is a celebration of every year, every day, and every minute of your contributions. And the fact that we have this task force going and many of the initiatives that you have been involved, whether it is the survey or whether these webinars or the report that you will be seeing in months to come, is an indication of how serious we are taking the issue of tearing down the barriers that shockingly you have and you continue to experience in workplaces and in study places and in organizations across this country of ours, not only south of the border. You know, sometimes we talk about south of the border and we forget our own backyard. So welcome to the webinar. We have close to 100 participants already. We have fabulous speakers, and we know that as always, we'll have fabulous questions from participants towards the end. So we don't take time now. I will bring in you some updates from RNAO. The only one I want to bring at this point is that the survey, today is the last day to complete the survey about nurses' mental health and well-being during COVID. So I will put that in the chat line so that you can actually take a minute to fill in the survey, and also to tell your friends and colleagues in nursing, RNs, NPs, and nursing students to complete the survey. So with that, I will pass it on to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Angela Cooper-Brathwaite, to introduce speakers, to tell us what's next in the agenda. On to you, Angela.
Thank you so much, Doris. And as we celebrate Black History Month, I would just like to reflect on our past, to acknowledge the present, and to focus on the future. And in reflecting on the past tonight, I choose to reflect on 605 Black men who were the members of the 1st Canadian Black Battalion. They were the 1st battalion and the last Black battalion because they were not included with the white participants during World War I. They were allowed to dig trenches and also to prepare for attacks on the assailant or the enemy. They were not even given quality clothing as the white participants, so many of them got ill during that time, but they did their duties diligently. And today a plaque records these Black men who fought in World War I in Canada's army in the legislative building, the main hall at Queen's Park. So I am recognizing their contributions to World War I. And Black Canadians have fought in all the other wars, World War II and other wars for the past 200 years. So that's our past. And I'll reflect now on our present. And I am so grateful that RNAO Task Force was able to launch under the auspices of Dr. Doris Greenspan, an anti-Black racism task force, which is moving forward. And our goal is to dismantle systemic racism in nursing. I will not give any further details on that. I also want to thank some of our Black organizations who work to mentor students, young professionals. They also give awards and scholarship, and that is the Black Business and Professional Association, very active. And it's a Canadian organization, so it's compassed Blacks across the country. I recognize their work and their contributions as well. But I'm looking forward to the future. The future is to dismantle systemic racism. So we need to continue to collaborate with our allies. And I want to say, we must never give up. We will fight for justice, fairness in treatment, equity, so that we could thrive in this society. We must never give up. And without any further words, I'd like to turn over to my co-chair, Cosita, who will now talk to you about the task force a bit more. Thank you.
Christy, I'm just going to quickly show the video of Claudette before you could begin, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I hope Claudette is there. And we decided, Claudette, just so you know, hope you're there. We surpassed the 100 attendees, and we wanted this to be a surprise for you that we are showing it. Now, here you go. Sound.
Can't hear her.
Oh, and sound's not working.
Can't hear.
Can't hear the volume.
I think Brittany knows probably.
Just give me one moment. I'll try again.
You want me to ask PG to help you?
No, don't worry.
Okay. maybe we continue. Here we go.
Black History Month 2021. This Black History Month, we honor and celebrate those who have contributed to many accomplishments, both past and present. We have a bright future ahead when we remind the world that Black lives do matter and that when we succeed, everyone succeeds. In harmony then, let us move forward to remove the barriers that have existed for too long. Let us work together to confront anti-Black racism, and let us reach to higher heights. Thank you. Claudette Holloway.
Beautiful. Beautiful as she is. Here you go. Back to you.
Cosita. Cosita, you have to unmute yourself. Cosita, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I know, I just couldn't get it done.
Don't worry, don't worry.
I knew I had to.
It's all good, Corsita. Keep going.
So thank you everyone again. Oh my goodness. So tonight we are talking about the our task force that was just one second, I've lost my place. So RNAO launched the Black Nurses Task Force to tackle anti-Black racism within the nursing profession. It's organizations, regulatory body associations, and the broader health system targeted toward and experienced by Black nurses. So there are currently 15 Black identified RNAO members who consist of RNs, NPs, and nursing students in the task force, with representation from diverse nursing career stages, roles, organizations, institutions, geographic locations, and lived experience. Our next meeting is scheduled for March the 31st. The webinar series is just one activity of the task force through which we aim to elevate the voices of Black nurses by celebrating their contributions to nursing and healthcare. It creates a safe space to engage in meaningful and critical dialogue around anti-Black racism and discrimination, raising awareness amongst the broader nursing and healthcare community. Thank you. We've developed terms of references. We are working towards a final report that will be contributed to by all of the task force members, the panelists. Our 4 key pillars are as follows. 1, education and awareness building. 2, research. 3, advocacy at all levels. And 4, partnering with allies and stakeholders. This task force is also in the process of shaping an RNAO mentorship initiative for Black nurses, by which tonight's session will be extremely valuable. The preliminary survey results from our 2020 survey demonstrated the stark importance of mentorship and the need for actions in this area for Black nurses. I would like to call on Angela now to go over the objectives for tonight.
Thank you, Cosita.
You're welcome.
I'd like to share the objectives with our group so you know what our panelists have looked at in order to prepare for their different speeches and discussions. 1, explore the value, benefits, and outcomes of mentorship opportunities for Black nursing students in academic setting. Review strategies for establishing goals, expectations, and boundaries in a mentor-mentee relationship. Identify enablers and barriers to Black nursing students' access to mentors. Examine how mentorship experiences for Black nursing students, and I should also say Black professors as well, are impacted by diversity of faculty and student population and administration. And the last one, promote dialogue to help shape RNAO's mentorship initiative for Black nurses and nursing students. Thank you. So now we will now turn our attention to a poll. We normally have a poll at each webinar. And tonight we have two questions, and you will have the opportunity to answer the question and indicate whether you've been to one before, or you've been to 2 or 3 or 4 to 5 or 6, or you haven't been before, or you've been to all, okay? So the question, how many of these webinars have you attended before? It's a multiple choice. You just choose one of the questions and then you submit. One of the answers, sorry. So we now look for the results. Okay, this is my first time. 53 attended, 29% attended 2 to 3 webinars, 4 to 5 webinars, 9%, 6 to 7 webinars, 3%, and I have never missed one yet, 6%. So we have the greater number of people attending this webinar for the first time, and we hope at the end of this webinar, you would have gained a lot of knowledge and skills, or enhance your knowledge and skills from what you're going to hear tonight. Thank you. We have one more question to ask you in the poll. Next poll, please. What is your perception of mentorship from your personal and professional experience? Is it positive, negative, or undecided? Would you please respond to one of the answers and then submit your results? Okay, the results, 63 said their experience was positive, 9% negative, and 28 undecided. Thank you very much for participating in this poll. And now it's my opportunity to call Cosita back to the podium, I should say, if we had one, so she could introduce our first speaker for the evening.
Thank you very much. So to get us thinking further about mentorship, we want to examine what it is, how we might go about it, how we might get more out of it to ensure that our Black nursing students are supported and have access to mentorship opportunities in the academic environment. So mentorship means development opportunities, cultivating inspiring relationships, fostering collaboration, facilitating conversations, acting as a resource, supporting skill development, and so much more. So Angela will now introduce our first speaker. Angela.
Thank you, Cosita. So our first speaker for the evening is Ola Thomas Obewu. I hope I said it correctly. I don't like to butcher people's surnames, so forgive me if I mispronounce it. And it's my pleasure to introduce her. She is one of our task force members. She's a third-year university student from York University. And Ola has inspired us over the months that we've come to know her. And she hopes to pursue a master's in nursing. And of course, she is involved in extracurricular activities. At York University, she's a course representative. She works in the skill lab as a facilitator and a peer ambassador. And Ola is also a panelist on our Black Task Force. Thank you, Ola, for taking this time to speak to us tonight, and we look forward to your contribution to this webinar.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that introduction. And I want to say welcome to everybody who just made out the time to attend today. My name is Ola Thomas Obewu, and just like Angela did mention, I am in my third year program, the BScN program at York University, and doing pretty well considering how much our lives been affected by the pandemic. So 5 years ago, I moved from Nigeria to Canada, and I can say my family and I have adjusted pretty well. I'll start from the beginning of my academic journey, which isn't extensive anyway. So I finished my upgrade at Emory Adult Learning Center in preparation for the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing degree. I was actually advised by a family member to go into the RN program. And my initial plan actually was to go into medical school. That has changed. And not because I think I'm incapable. It's just because I think nursing in itself, it's an incredible journey. And I would like to advance in this profession and in this field. I remember going up to Emory to inquire about the processes involved in the upgrade, just to ensure I was making the best choice for myself. And I recall vividly the counselor telling me to go into the European program because it was easier and faster. And over the years, I've never really thought about it. It just did not make, I didn't really give much thought to it. But with the recent events that have been happening, I've actually had the time to reflect on it and ask myself if a Black counselor would have given me similar advice or probably would have pushed me to pursue my goal. And in my 3 years of nursing school, I've had a fair amount of Black educators. I mean, I would say a fair amount compared to the people who've been before me who probably didn't have any Black educator throughout their nursing school. And amazingly, I've had one Black professor for each semester. But two people actually did inspire me. I have Dr. Julia Blake. Usually at the start of every semester, every professor will come in and introduce themselves, but being a Black nurse who introduced herself with a lot of accomplishments, in a way I connected because she was telling me that was the message I received. You can do this. You can be like me and more. Being a Black nursing leader and a professor, that really inspired me. And secondly, I have Shauna. She was my clinical instructor. She was very supportive. I felt so much at ease practicing in a clinical setting. I didn't feel like I was asking stupid questions or inappropriate questions. She was 100% supportive. And I really look forward to clinical placement each week. The peak of all this, it's being a panel member at the Black Nurses Task Force. I've had the opportunity to be among experts and Black accomplished nursing leaders, and I have never felt so motivated, empowered, bold, determined, and even more ambitious. This task force has shown me that Black nurses can be leaders too. I have people I look up to now, like Dr. Angela, Cosita, Claudette, Dania, Dion, even though we don't have a mentor-mentee relationship, but they're the people who have really motivated me, just to chase my goals. And this has really got me thinking about the other Black nursing students who are not aware that such Black leaders do exist. They don't know that certain positions are occupied by Black nurses. And I think this is where mentorship and representation comes in. And the last webinar, we did look at guidelines for maintaining a healthy mentoring relationship and benefits of mentorship. And I like to recognize that every individual would have a motive for being in this unique relationship. But I speak from a Black student's perspective. A Black mentor is someone who inspires, motivates, and empowers you. A Black mentor listens to you and validates your experiences while guiding you through a meaningful path. A Black mentor reveals job opportunities or represents diverse fields in nursing. A Black mentor builds on your strengths while providing honest feedback to you. And most importantly, a Black mentor will inspire you to mentor others. This is why it's imperative that Black nursing students, we have access to leaders who will understand our journey, experiences, fears, and doubts. And at some point, I came across a journal that pointed out that if you have a mentor or even a teacher from similar race or ethnicity as you, it would positively influence you. I have two examples to give. I actually do have a couple of them, but I'll just narrow it down to two because of time. When I was in my second year, I had the opportunity to mentor a nursing student, and she is Nigerian. And for me, I feel fulfilled because I was contributing to her life. And whatever tips I gave her, it did work for her. And even though the contract ended, she would always come back to me. And that made me feel like I was making a difference. So whatever I was telling her was working for her. And I felt like it transferred that positive energy that she could be successful at as well. And I will use myself an example. When I moved to Canada, that was a tremendous shift for me. When I was in Nigeria, every dreams I had and my goals, the life I aspired to be, it had Black people in it. And when I came to Canada and when I look at all this, the life, I didn't see a lot of Black people. And that the message I received was probably, this is not for me. So I have to change my goals. And that was pretty frightening for me. But being a member of this Black Nurses Task Force has actually revived those goals and those dreams and has shown me that, yes, I too can be any of this. Now, how can we make mentorship possible? I am convinced that we have Black nursing leaders capable of establishing a mentoring program for Black nursing students. RNAO has done a lot for us. Thank you so much, Dr. Doris. And we can utilize that and also advertise to our schools. It will be no surprise at the amount of Black nursing students who will come up in need of a mentor. We need this mentorship program to create awareness and facilitate relationship. And secondly, we need more representation in the academia, be it a professor or an administrative level. These are people I refer to as the informal mentors, people that guide you and influence your decision, even though there's no mentoring contract. An example will be myself and the other Black task force members. And I like to add, this is actually where it gets difficult because we don't have enough Black nurses with that educational or professional background to qualify for such positions. And this is because this is due to the barriers and discrimination Black nurses face in their educational institutions or places of work that really hinders them from getting that resources they need in order to be in such leadership position. Now, to close off, we Black nursing students, we need to see and interact with more Black leaders, mentors, counselors, and guardians in our various educational institutions. Our schools should be more sensitive to our experiences and how it affects our academic experience and journey. There should be more workshops in our school aimed at addressing racism and discrimination. And most importantly, these workshops should empower Black nursing students and highlight the achievements of Black nurses. We need to see for ourselves that Black nurses are making huge contributions to advance this profession. And lastly, I speak from a place of necessity because I think we need a program designed to unify Black leaders and Black nursing students from various nursing schools. I need to see that I'm not in this journey alone. I have other nursing students with me, and I have these Black leaders that are willing to guide me as well. And to close up, as we celebrate Black History Month, I think it's important that we take some time, to reflect on our journey and appreciate all achievements. Nursing students, nurses, nurse practitioners in every field, you are doing great. And our Black leaders are paving the way for us. And so shall we pave the way for those coming behind us and moving alongside as well. As Black nursing students, we need to see more of this Black greatness, accomplishments, intelligence, boldness, and determination. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Ola, for that presentation. We are so grateful too to have you on the task force, representing the Black nursing student community. Next, we will hear from Dr. Bukola Salami. Bukola is an associate professor at the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Alberta. Her research program focuses on policies and practices shaping migrants' health. She has been involved in around 50 funded research projects. She's the lead on 20 of these projects with funding from national and international agencies. In 2020, she created the Black Youth Mentorship and Leadership Programs at the University of Alberta. She founded and leads the African Migrant Child Research Network of 30 scholars from 4 continents. She has trained over 40 students, many of whom have received awards, including the Canadian Vanier Award and the International Development Research Center Doctoral Award. Dr. Salami has received several awards for research excellence and community engagement, including the Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society International Nurse Researcher Hall of Fame, one of the highest research awards in nursing. So join me now welcoming Dr. Salami.
Thank you for having me, and it's a great pleasure to see new faces and also to see some very familiar faces or some very familiar names, including people that, you know, even though I don't communicate it, that you know, when I was a master's student or undergraduate or a PhD student, I would think, oh, she's doing her PhD, she looks like me. I can do my PhD too. And you know, it's so great and very important that you know, Black nursing leaders are visible. So today I'll be talking about the power of mentorship. I'll be drawing on the University of Alberta Black Youth Mentorship and Leadership Program, which I just founded last year. And it's an interdisciplinary program. It's not just nursing. It is you know, across the University of Alberta. And basically I brought together all Black faculty members, emailed all Black faculty members at the University of Alberta. And I said, join me and let's start this. I think we have 20 across the university and I was able to get 17. I wrote 17 into my plan. So next slide. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm located in Treaty 6 territory and that I respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all peoples of Canada whose presence continue to enrich you know, the land that I am on. I also acknowledge my positionality as a settler in a land that was stolen, and that I continue to inhabit a stolen land, and I appreciate the fact that the indigenous people have shared this land with me willingly. They've shared this land with me. Agenda, so I'll talk about my program of research and the Black Youth Mentorship Program. Next slide. So IP Research Program, next slide, please. So my program of research, the goal is to address the gaps in immigration and health policies and practices. And we've had around 5,500 research projects in the area of immigrant health. It's interdisciplinary. We have collaborators from over 30 countries involved. Next slide. And the strategic directions of my program of research include drive high impact policy and practice research, mentor and train diverse talented researchers. So I do have a lot of people that are going through my program, my research, and my research assistants tend not to stay too long, because within 2-3 years or maximum 4 years, you're out doing something better. Bigger and better is the plan. So for example, I have one of my trainees is currently an associate professor at the University of Regina. And I have 2 assistant professors at the University of Alberta that I trained, and all of them, most of the people that I train, at least I've trained at least 40, and 2 are white, and the biggest chunk are BIPOC, including Black people. Build cross-sectoral networks to improve immigrant health and shape Canadian international policy and practice. Next slide, please. So some of the findings, I should probably skip the slide because we're out of time. Of my research is income and community belonging have the strongest influence on mental health. And this is based on analysis of the Canadian Health Measures Survey to find out the factors that contribute to the mental health of immigrants. We recently did a study on the mental health of Black youths, and the 2 strongest factors that youths were talking about in our interview and group sessions with 129 Black youths is anti-Black racism and the strong influence of anti-Black racism on mental health, and also intergenerational tensions between them and their parents. A strengths-based perspective is needed that capitalizes on strengths agency and resilience of immigrant population, including Black population. And another research I did, which is published in the Canadian Journal of Public Health, shows that self-reported mental health of immigrants declines after 5 years in Canada. And immigration status is a strong determinant of health. Next slide, please. So some of the findings that we've had about anti-Black racism is Black people experience racism at work. So, you know, one of the participants that I talked to, this person was actually not Black. It was she or he was an immigrant service provider. I think it's a she. So this person was from Africa and he was hired at a certain department. He was supposed to work the same job as others, regardless of the color, but they give him a cleaning duty because of the color of his skin. And Black children experience racism in the school system. And people talk about like racism within the school system, like our kids are really being looked at different as soon as they walk in. So if the Somali kid does the same thing as the white kid, they are going to be looked at different. And some of our nursing students may also experience this. You know, they do the same thing as someone that is white. You know, the punishment they get is like double what someone of another racial group will get. Anti-Black racism contributes to health of Black youth. So one of the youths who had experienced racism and had been bullied about their skin features talked about, I grew up with so much anti-Black racism. God, I hated myself. I wanted to be white so bad. I wanted to have straight hair. I wanted to have lighter skin. And in that same interview, the youth talked about someone throwing a sloppy at her and calling her nigger and racial slurs as she was crossing the street. Non-Black health professionals are often unable to provide anti-racist health services. One participant talked about when you call HealthLink, so they are asking you if your child is blue. And being a Black person, my child never turns blue. So then it makes you wonder how well these health professionals have been trained to know more about about other races and how to address it. And another you talked about, this was about mental health counseling, and she had experience, had experienced anti-Black racism. And she talked to a counselor about her racist experience. And usually she said, you know, what they would usually do is they would try to pass it and not talk about it and just bring up another topic because they don't feel comfortable dealing with it. So, oh, like I'm experiencing racism. They'd be like, what? Oh, what? Are you sure? Okay, let's get some like other strategies you can deal with. Like, you know, just mention something else that is not racism. Next slide, please. And sorry, I'm going into, I think now I'm diverting from. So I've provided training to over 40 individuals who have been trained, all except 2 are BIPOC. Trainees have published several papers in peer-reviewed journals, and they've also won awards. Also several of them have landed successful careers. Next slide, please. So I'll talk about my passion, my baby, the Black Youth Mentorship and Leadership Program. And, you know, when I talk about this, it's like so dear to my heart because this is people have, BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. The mentorship program is so dear to my heart because people mentored me. And it's like, now I'm actually in the position that I can mentor others. So it warms my heart. Next slide. So how it started, I was around in the early 90s or mid 90s, a mentorship program was created at the University of Toronto. It was led by the Faculty of Medicine, and it was initiated by Black Health Science, Association of Health Science, Black Health Sciences. Well, most of them, the association were Black. No, all of them were Black, but most of them were physicians, except one, who I happened to shadow, that was a nurse at Regent Park, and who was the first person that inspired me that maybe medicine is not, maybe, there's a path towards nursing. So this is where my life started, a year after I got to Canada to attend the mentorship program at the University of Toronto over a 6 weeks period. And I know how much it contributed to my path to where I am And I've always looked at since then that I should actually contribute to the lives of Black youths after me. So there was a funding call in 2018 by Heritage Canada with a specific focus on Black youth or Black people in Canada. So I applied for that, and we got a funding call. At the same time, I was able to search and find out Black faculty members at the university. I think I was able to identify 12. As time progressed, I was able to identify more, and 17 Black faculty members. I was able to convince them to sign up to this. So they range in faculty members from engineering, sociology, law, business, surgery. They're all over the university. And they're all tenure track from assistant professor to full professor. Next slide. So this is our program, our organizational structure. So we have I am the lead of the program. We have the steering committee, which is Black faculty members. We have a program coordinator that reports to me. We also have an advisory committee, and the advisory committee is Black. We have representative of the Black Nurses and Black Teachers Association. On the committee, we have different community leaders. We have youths that are part of the committee. And we haven't yet set up our admissions committee, curriculum and community engagement committee, but hopefully in the future, we'll be able to set that up. Next slide. And can you go back to the previous slide? So if you see in a box there, I have regional leads, and it's not highlighted yet because that is my ultimate goal, is to actually make this national. That then if we make this national, we'll have regional leads. So I recently applied for a SHIRK Partnership Development Grant. And if we get the funding of $2.5 million, we will train 450, mentor 450 Black youths over a period of 7 years, if we're able to get it. So that's my plan. I put it there. As a Christian, it's like you put it there and you're hoping that it's gonna become, come to pass in the future. Next slide. So the goal of the Black Youth Mentorship and Leadership Program is to socially and economically empower Black youths to contribute meaningfully to the society. The program has the following anticipated outcomes. We wanted to increase leadership skills of Black youth. We want to increase the post-secondary entry and completion rate of Black youth. We want to foster community belonging for Black youth and create a positive cultural identity for Black youth and increase ability of Black youth to tackle issues of racism and discrimination. Next slide. So in terms of recruitment, we recruited, through social media, community networks, email listserv. I have around 400, people, mainly Black people that are part of my email listserv in Alberta. And applicants submitted a one-page essay. And the mentorship program, sorry, I didn't say this, it's for high school youths. So we are targeting youths between grade 11 and grade 12 is our main target, although sometimes we get youths in grade 10. And they also submit an application form. Last year we did consider transcript grades in our admission, but this next year we're planning to actually still get grades, but not use it, not rate people based on grades, not factor it in the admission selection. But the grades will need it because we need to track if their grades improve over time or not. And that's the only reason why we're gonna ask for it. With our advertisement, we had 72 youths apply and we selected 36 youths of that. Next slide, please. We had two streams. We had a mentorship stream and we had two streams because we didn't have money to pay them fully. The mentorship stream, they were paid $500. And because of COVID, this was supposed to be over the summer. So we ended up doing it in the fall. And so they attended workshops every Saturday. And they had group mentorship by an undergraduate student. So we hired an undergraduate student to mentor in a group 2 to 8 youths. And they had a group paper that they wrote. So there was one, I think I have the questions of the paper later on. They had a presentation and they also attended workshop. For the research stream, they worked as research assistants with Black faculty members. So 2 of them were placed with me. For example, the people placed with me, there's one of the youths that is helping me, and I'm going to publish that soon, develop a resource guide for Black parents in Edmonton. So she basically went and searched for all the resources that Black parents need, and she's helping me to put it together. That was a project. We had, there's another youth that helped me to develop a list of Black stakeholders in Alberta, and that was a project. Actually, no, I had 3. And then there was another youth that helped me with document analysis. We need to analyze documents related to Black parenting practice, Black parents and Black children in Canada, and she helped me with that. There were some youths that were in political science, with a political science faculty member, with the law faculty member, with a surgery faculty member, and also engineering. And they got work experience, they attended workshops, and they were paid $15.20 per hour, the minimum wage at the University of Alberta, and they worked 15 hours a week for 12 weeks. Because of COVID-19 and the structure, some of them were not able to work their maximum hours, but at least they work at least some hours. And 2 of them also received high school credit because they were getting work experience. Next slide. And we're hoping more will receive high school credit. So in the group sessions that I had, I wanted the youths to write a paper that they could connect with as Black youths. So this the way I've split things is not like a natural connection, but we had to split things based on who applied to the program. So we combined nursing with psychology and speech language. And that group was tasked with writing something about mental health among Black people and how to address it. Law, social work, and social justice, they identified, discussed racism within the school system and how to address it. People in engineering addressed how to solve world problems in Africa and other developing countries and other Black population. And that group ended up talking about plastic and waste management in Africa was a topic that group went with. The medicine group went with sickle cell disease and bone marrow transplant as a treatment for sickle cell disease and the implications of that for a physician. And the business management group went with organizational structure and organizational and structural systemic racism within organizations and how to address it. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm talking too much. So in terms of the workshop, we had different workshops. We had faculty member career panel. We brought together all faculty members and they were able to talk with different faculty members. And we had a session on conducting literature searches, on literature reviews, on improving their writing skills, on how to thrive in university. We brought in Black. So most of our speakers were Black people. I would say probably 90% were Black. We did have some that were non-Black, but the greatest majority was Black. We had a session on economic empowerment of Black youth. We had one on effective study skills, how to apply for awards, how to finance your education, how to budget. The youth really learned about budgeting. They were, the questions they asked, they really needed that information. Public speaking, communication, and professionalism. And I remember the one about financing your education. There was a youth that was planning to become a personal support worker after she graduated. And one of the main reasons that she wanted to become a personal support worker is that, she doesn't know if she's gonna fund her education. And then from her attending the financing your education, then, I'm able to tell her, you can, there are actually ways I myself, my parents didn't have any money stacked up for me. I got loan and I also applied for awards available. This is how I did it. This is how you can do it. And then, now she has a better idea in terms of, going into, nursing as opposed to becoming a personal support worker. Financing your education, public speaking, mental health problems, your brand and professionalism, leadership and conflict resolution. We couldn't, do a tour. We wanted them to do a campus tour. We couldn't. So we did a virtual tour of campus. Thriving in the world of work, tackling racism in Canada, And we also did one on Black history and Afro quiz. They loved the session about Black history. In fact, we had to bring another Black faculty member from day one. They wanted to really talk about Black history. And then we ended it with Indigenous people in Canada. So we wanted them to know better in terms of relating to Indigenous people in Canada. Next slide, please. So here are some of the reflections. This reflection was actually written by my mentee, the same mentee that I said developed the booklet, which will be published, a parenting guide. And she talked about, as a result of participating in this project and learning many useful lessons, I now have a lot more knowledge about not only what it means to be the best person of myself academically, but what it means to be a person of color. Being a person of color is a privilege that I now pride myself in, but I have learned that it should not be my main drive for accomplishing my growth. My goal for, my love for what I am doing should be my motivation, because as wonderful as it is to be Black, my color is not what defines me as a person, but my actions in my everyday life. One of the most important things I learned while being in this mentorship program is a lesson from Dr. Salami to always say thank you for every opportunity I get. So to Dr. Salami and to everyone who was involved in this program, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for how much you have helped me and prepared me for the future. It's something that I can only repay you back by going out and using all the tools you have equipped me with to make society a better place for future generations. And because those that, the 10 research assistants, they couldn't complete a group project because, so I had each of the 10 research assistants complete a reflection of the experience. And this was just like part of the reflection that she wrote. And I asked her if I can share it, that she said it's okay, that I can share it. We did a logo competition. Oh my God, the time. We did a logo competition, and here's the logo that won the competition. For the logo competition, we asked them to describe what the logo means to them. And this is the logo that they described. Many of them describe, issues related to being a Black person. The figure in the center shows Black youth developing into better leaders. The graduation cap is added to show the youths as graduated or are going to graduate. Both leadership and higher graduation rates are both objectives of the Black Youth Mentorship Program. Next slide. This was by another one of my research assistants that worked with me. This was the logo she developed. It came in second place, and she said the title of being a Black person in society is weighted heavily, sometimes in negative form. During this program, I am able to learn and acknowledge the brighter side of being a person of color, rather than from the perspective of society standard as a Black person, as a person of Black ethnicity. The BNP provides us with advice and inspiration so we can grow as our own unique individuals and have greater success in a brighter future. We all wish to reach success, and we are sometimes not sure where to start. This program is a great place to begin. Filled with encouragement and wise words, the Black Youth Mentorship Program really helps all individuals grow as their own unique self, not just based on ethnicity. Next slide. So this is another logo. I forgot who wrote this logo. I think this was actually a group because they could do it in a group or they couldn't do it individually. It's become a staple in my life, filled with wisdom, incredible stories, inspirational speakers, and amazingly like-minded youths. Personally, this program has helped me come out of my shell, speaking to people I would not have ordinarily piped up to speak to, making friends and being inspired, being told and shown by impactful teachers and professionals that I can achieve what I want, that I can succeed no matter the discrimination. And actually the student that wrote this, she was interviewed by CBC for Black History Month for another thing. And then she couldn't stop talking about our Black Youth Mentorship Program. And then because of that, CBC Edmonton contacted me to actually change the story that they wanted to feature about her to our Black Youth Mentorship Program instead of what she wanted to talk about. Next slide. This is another slide. This person chose, a lot of the youths actually, they use the fist as they incorporated the fist into their logo. It recognized power and strength, and this person also incorporated the University of Alberta coats of arms. Next slide, please. I mean, this person's, own description of Black youth was the colorism within, Black people and the diversity of Blackness. So, wanted to really show, and that was a description. Next slide. Logo competition, fist bumps, the same idea. One thing that really, an unintended consequence, a positive unintended consequences, we were afraid that if we did a mentorship program online, that the youths will not connect. And that they wouldn't, because one of our objectives was also to promote community belonging, which has been shown to contribute to mental health. But we were very surprised that the youths were all still able to, even though, it's workshops that they were attending every weekend, they were still able to connect. There were some youths that, I know some personalities of youths, like, in their own unique ways. And all the youths in our program were very, very, strong in their own different ways. For example, we had a 12-year-old that was in grade 12 in our program. We had to make a special case for him because we weren't supposed to admit anyone less than 16, but he's achieved it. He's achieved grade 12, so he deserves it if he meets the criteria. So we accepted him. Next slide. I think this is probably the same thing. Some youths also brought in flags of different Black countries to represent the diversity. Next slide. And sorry, I'm late, but that is it. I can't, that is it about the mentorship program, the Black Youth Mentorship Program. We will be offering it again this year. And if anyone is interested to be a mentor, email me at I'm selling it at immigrant.health@uavada.ca, because I'll soon start looking for mentors for our Black youth. That's it.
Thank you, Bukola, for that inspiring and informative presentation, for your research and for mentoring and your passion. And we just applaud you for all the good work you're doing in Alberta and across this country and internationally. We look forward to collaborating with you again, and we wish you great success in all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce Birgit Umaigba, and she is a clinical instructor at Centennial College, where she teaches the laboratory and clinical components of nursing at Ryerson Centennial College Collaboration Bachelor of Science degree. She also works as a critical care nurse, providing nursing services across hospitals in the Greater Toronto area. She is a vibrant member of the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario and volunteers as a scrutineer at RNAO annual general meetings. She is a healthcare advocate and strongly believes that the work needs to be done, in creating a future where diverse cultural groups are represented in nursing leadership positions. She is a wife and a proud mother of a 9-year-old daughter. Birgit is a lifetime member of the Golden Key International Honor Society. Her other passion is music. She recently launched a song demo and enjoys singing at free time. Please join me in welcoming Birgit as our third panelist for tonight.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for that introduction. I'm very excited to be on this platform. It's so nice to have Doris here. I love you. Well, I cannot start my journey without talking about the beginning. Very similar to Ola's presentation, I started off as a young Black nurse at Emory College. I had to do my upgrading to go into my nursing program, just like Ola. So when she was talking, I'm like, why does she look like me? So I'm also from Nigeria. And I know I always wanted to be a doctor at some point, but somehow something got into me to choose nursing. First of all, You know, I was going back to school as a mature student, and here I was. I needed to get into the workforce as, you know, as quick as possible. I had a little baby at that time, so I did meet a counselor, and she actually did advise me to pursue the RN program. So long story short, I ended up at Seneca, York, and I started my journey. Um, Throughout my nursing program, I think I had one Black nursing professor and two other Black professors that taught other non-nursing nursing courses. In a way, I felt a little bit represented, that I was able to connect with a Black, you know, a Black professor that was also a nurse. But at the same time, I felt that wasn't enough. I also had a clinical instructor who was Black, and somehow she happened to understand, you know, understand where I was coming from. Sometimes it was quite difficult and challenging from an immigrant perspective. Sometimes you had to go for a hearing at the court, or little things that only a Black immigrant nurse could understand. So, and then at York, I was one of my professors. I took a course where we had to learn about Black leaders. I learned about Angela Cooper at that time, and I was, you know, dying to meet her. So I ended up at the RNAO AGM. I'm like, oh, it was so nice to see someone I wrote about. And I also met other nursing leaders. I connected with Doris at that time. So it was really great. These are people I was like, oh, wow, this is possible as well. It is possible to see a Black nurse that is also a nursing leader. I know we're leaders in so many ways, but at least someone that you could actually aspire to be. Unfortunately, it was very, very hard to connect with Black, you know, other Black instructors, just because a lot of times is curriculum to the student, and that was it. During my consolidation as well, I had a preceptor that was Black, and that allowed me to also engage fully into my learning experience, because she was able to connect with me in ways that only a Black preceptor could. When I started my new grad initiative, I actually did a research on my own. I went through all the units at the hospital. I was looking for one Black manager. I went through 12 units, and I could not find one Black manager in the entire hospital. And it was really disappointing, because I met one Black clinical nurse educator at that time that, in my opinion, I felt, okay, I think this person could also qualify as a manager. But somehow I started, you know, thinking about what could be the barriers to becoming a manager, and it was really shocking at that time. So we know that there are so many benefits to being, to having access to Black mentors, and in academia. You definitely, students are more aware of the barriers that your fellow Black student peers face, healthier academic environments, and then research shows that there's increased graduation rates among Black students when they have mentors they can aspire to, they can engage with. Unfortunately, there are so many barriers to that. Here I have one of the enablers that could actually help to mitigate that would be access to nursing professors, Black nursing professors on campus. But at the same time, it's very difficult for nurses to become professors in the first place. So I think we can advocate for this to allow nurses who are qualified to be able to become professors as well. So mentorship programs in school, peer mentorship was something really big for me. I had fellow peers, from my friends, nursing students, were able to encourage each other, counsel each other to become nurses today. And a lot of us did graduate, so which was great, but we didn't have that program that would help. So I'm really, really surprised and happy to hear about the U of T Black Youth Mentorship Program that Dr. Bukola just talked about. So that's really fascinating, and then I would really love to engage with that. And lastly, I wanted to speak about my role as a clinical educator so far with Centennial College. I've also been able to, with so much humility, mentor a few Black students. And I have one that I'm actually following who has graduated and is now a nurse. And also the challenges of being a new grad nurse, being underrepresented and under units is also one that must be addressed. So as a clinical educator, I remember having this very student who was a new migrant to Canada, and she was a single mom, and it was quite difficult for her to attend clinical at certain times. Even though I knew that she was very committed to her learning, I knew also that there were so many barriers that she had to surpass to be able to participate fully in her learning. So I think from her words, just knowing that I understood where she was coming from was a big factor for her to eventually graduate. So I think it is so vital for Black students to feel represented in academia, as well as when they become new grad nurses, as well as in leadership positions. Without taking much more of the time here, I just wanted to say, for me, Black History Month is yet another time for me to reflect on the diversity and value I add to the nursing profession. As I remember the likes of Bernice Redmond, Ruth Bailey, Gwen Batten, and Marissa Scott, I'm challenged to add my voice in advocacy for more Black nurses in leadership roles. Although we've made some progress over the years, more work needs to be done in creating a future where diverse cultural groups are represented in nursing leadership positions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for that presentation, Birgit. You bring such an important perspective to this topic. Now we will pose a few discussion questions to the three panelists. I see Dr. Salami might still be here. We're asking them to respond to. So we welcome you to share examples and experiences in your responses and build off of the other panelists' responses if warranted. So the first question is, personally, what benefits, value, or outcomes, personal and or professional, have you gained from being in a mentorship relationship? So Birgit, since you're open.
Sorry, was that for me?
Sure, it's for all of you.
Okay. Yeah. Benefits or value outcomes you've gained from being in a mentorship relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so many benefits. As a mentee, as Doris's mentee, I've had opportunities to expand professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, privileges to connect with leaders. Within the RNAO, I've met with so many leaders. I've been able to engage, and actually just watching them and seeing how they grow professionally, and that has actually allowed me to also find my own career path. Actually, when I was going to do my master's and I was trying to gauge where my interests were, I actually looked at some of the credentials of the leaders that I do admire, and I am like, okay, what credentials do they have, and and things like that. So mentorship has allowed me to increase my professional development, and also it's also allowed me to continue lifelong learning. So as a mentor myself right now to students, I think is an opportunity for me to constantly learn, so I can also be able to engage with them fully, increase their confidence in their own roles, provide that counseling. I did a few courses, I think last year, last year on counseling, and I learned some strategies to be able to you know, actively listen to students and counsel, provide that encouragement and that you know, trying to bring out the best in them. So yeah, it's been, I think it's a two-way benefit. It's beneficial for both mentors and mentees alike, just helping mentees leading to increased self-efficacy and feelings of empowerment.
Thank you.
I want to comment, Corsita. I want to comment on Birgit, because it's not only about mentors, it's about the person. So let me tell you my perspective of how I met Birgit, that says she loves me because I love her too. I met Birgit, we were in a lunch. It was the students' luncheon of RNAO, and we had brought a group of people that work with refugees, and we brought a few refugees, and they were sharing with the audience, all students, and also professors and the leadership of RNAO, and heart-wrenching stories they were sharing. I don't know if, Angela, you remember that group of people that came. They were heart-wrenching. And then they were done. And this young person from the back basically put her hand up and says, can I come and say something? And of course, who is going to say no to a member of RNAO, right? Even though the panel had ended and we needed to go back to the AGM, the woman was asking, can I say a few words? And he came to the front and shared her story about she and her daughter. That, number one, the story needs, the action in itself is an action of courage. Very few people have the guts to, you know, in a forum like that of people that you don't know, because it was after a week you had been with us. Well, I can tell the story when I challenged you in the group with the students also, and how she stood up and answered, you know. She's a story of courage, and not many mentors have that type of story. So it's a story that mentees can share to others to encourage of how they overcome challenges. And if you look at, she doesn't need to look at credentials of other people, let me tell you. She certainly doesn't. She just needs to keep going. In fact, by now she should be director. She just doesn't want to be director, which is fine. Not everybody needs to be director. But where I'm going with it is, I'm talking now to Salami, Dr. Salami. That's your next PhD student, that Birgit there.
Come over.
No, she's not coming over. She needs to stay in Toronto. She bought a house in Toronto, darling. She has in Toronto. Her husband is going to join her in Toronto, and she needs to be next to Mama Doris. So no, she's not coming there because, no. But she can be a far away student and come for summers with her daughter and see Alberta. Here you go. She's your next PhD student.
Yes, she could
Brilliant.
enroll.
She's brilliant.
She could enroll online.
She will shine. She's brilliant.
Thank you very much. That means a lot.
It doesn't mean a lot. It's the truth. I'm saying that you need to look at the mirror, darling.
It does. Thank you so much. Doris has been a rock for me. Thank you.
And Ola, you're on the way. Same, because I heard you speak. You know what I mean? And Birgit can be your mentor. And Angela can tell you how she all her life stood up for people and didn't give a boo if people didn't like her or what she had to say. She just went somewhere else, and that's that. And Corsita, you know, with all the adversities in life and how you have carried on and continue to push. So it's a question for Salami, for Dr. Salami, for Bukola. I think amongst Black nurses and Black nursing students, and probably it's because of their historical injustices that they have experienced, but they undermine themselves. You know, not undermine, underrate. You know what I mean? All of these people that I heard speak tonight, three of them I know well, even you, Dr. Salami, I know a little bit because I read about you, but the others I know well. The only one that doesn't underrate herself is Angela. It's a lot to learn about that from Angela. Never, never, never underrates herself, right? And you, of course, Dr. Salami also know. But my Birgit needs to grow on that one. You are big and you need to recognize that you are big. And all I can hear what you spoke and you are big too. And Corsita, I don't need to tell you because we speak often and you are big too. And so tell us about that, Dr. Salami, of how we help people see themselves in the mirror and say, wow, that person is awesome. And they all of a sudden realize that person is them.
Yeah, I think you know, what you talked about is something that really holds true. I mean, I don't know, you know, some of you, a few people know me. You know, when I was at in Toronto, that I was a little bit more in my world. You know, when you go to a faculty and you know, there's someone that always says, "Hello, Bukola," from afar. And you know, when I started as a Black faculty member, one thing that I read, looking at Chronicles of Higher Education, is you need to get a mentor inside of your faculty, and you need to get a mentor outside of your faculty. And I tried as much as possible to make sure that mentor outside of my faculty was Black, because I needed to really connect. But I think it's so important, you know, and you know, the issue about what people see of themselves, about, you know, self-esteem, and it's not just limited to their work environment. There's a societal influence on that, in terms of, you know, the way the society actually portrays Black people and you know, Black lives. And I think that is one of the beauty related to our mentorship program, is when people are able to see other people like them that are succeeding. And that's what I benefited too when I was in the Black Youth Mentorship Program at U of T at the Faculty of Medicine, that I was able to not just, you know, but I was able to see Black people doing great stuff, so that I know that, okay, what the society is saying about people that look like me is not the same, because there's actually people that are able to overcome and are able to actually progress. So I think we need to expose a lot of our Black youth. And honestly, oftentimes I also infuse, I remember, you know, there's someone that I am mentoring. She's not Black, but she's BIPOC. She's a person of color. And, you know, she has internalized so much negativity related to our mentorship. And I just remember last week I had a meeting with her, and, you know, she wanted, you know, she thought that the meeting was going to be an assessment meeting. And I'm like, no, do not take this as an assessment meeting. This is just a meeting for us to discuss how your graduate work is going. And, you know, I'm going to learn from you in this meeting. You're not only the only one learning. I'm going to learn from you about your graduate work, and you're also going to learn from me about what I think about this topic. So I think, you know, it's very, very important that we recognize that and infusing positive messages, that, you know, it's not every time that you're going to be critiqued, but that there's also times where you have actually done great work, and remembering to actually talk about all the greatness that you know, a lot of our youth possess. I was amazed. I presented about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if people attended, at the University of Toronto, where some youth related to the Black youth mental health project that I did with youth. I was amazed at how great these youths were. Intellectually and academically, and their critical thinking and their critical perspective on issues, that, you know, it's a two-way exchange. So I wouldn't even say in terms of mentorship that, you know, it's a, you know, mentee learning from a mentor. A mentor also, you know, you learn and you broaden your perspective about mentees. Whether, for me, it's been learning now about Snapchat. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I will at some point. You know, you broaden your perspective and you learn too.
I would just like to add something to that question. what are some obstacles or challenges encountered with mentorship in academic setting? But I would like to go back a little bit and say what some of the benefits, both mentee and mentor benefit from the relationship. And I would say some of the things my mentee has taught me, and I'm referring to Dr. Soraya Sidani, is how to get how to take a thesis and get 7 or 8 papers out of it. Because there are many people who have done PhDs and have not published their theses in different journals. She taught me how to break that thesis down, whether you call it scoping, and to get 8 or 9 publications from my PhD thesis. And I have learned that's one of the things I learned from Soraya. I now pass it on to my other mentees now who have done research work and they want to go and publish. Another thing is having people who receive awards or grants sit on your committee if you are applying for grants, because the senior person with all those grants, they carry a lot of weight when the reviewing committee see their names, because they're well known through the publications, through the work they do. So do choose, for those of you who are making a profession in academia, choose a mentee who could help you expand not only your knowledge and skills, help you to get grants. And you know, being in academia is publish or perish, okay? You have to have a program of research. You have to be able to proceed and finalize, get your research funded and get it published. So you need people to help you with getting your grants written well so they would be received and helping you to publish and to move forward. So I would like to say that specifically for those of you who are interested in making a career in academia as a professor.
Angela, can I put in one word?
Sure.
Just one word. Someone asked here, there's less enthusiasm among nurses of color when it comes to mentorship in my department, operating room. How can we manage this issue? One of the challenges that academics of color face, or people in leadership positions of color, is that you're drawn in so many ways to do service work for free without any, and so many people are asking and demanding of your time as an academic of color. So, you know, when nurses of color in your department are not willing to mentor, you must ask, are there things that you're doing that normally other white or non-people of color are not doing that is increasing or adding to their workload? So do they have more pressures on their time, number one? Number two, you also have to think about what value do you put on mentorship? So a lot of people of color and a lot of academics of color do a lot of community service that other people do not do. And community service, you know, there's no credit given to, the work that you do, such as the work that people are going to do as mentors on this forum. So if there's anyone in this forum that is a nurse leader or a manager, you know, think about what credit are you going to give for people that are actually going to engage in mentorship, and how are you going to actually reward and praise them for the work that you're doing? I think that's one thing that, you know, prioritizing and honoring mentors is very important for people to actually take on the mentorship task.
That's excellent. I remember when I worked in public health, some of the nurses in public health said they did not want to be preceptors, and even in acute care, they said they had done it for so long, and we tried to implement a program to award the preceptors who act in a mentorship role as well to students, so that they got, we arranged that with the University of Ontario, UIT then, now it's OTN, Ontario Technology University, to do an award program with the dean and with administration from where I was working. So we had a program every year. We acknowledge all our preceptors. We give them a certificate. We give them access to the library at the university to encourage them, because they give a lot of their time and their effort, and to acknowledge the work that they do.
Thank you so much. You guys believe this is time already?
I don't know if there are other questions, Corsita.
Yeah, I know. I'm just letting you know that there's 6 minutes left.
But Birgit,
Yeah.
are you following? Because I don't see the chat to see if there are other questions, or maybe there are none.
We're okay at the moment for questions. We'll do another discussion and then we'll skip to Q&A before closing out.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll cut up with the questions.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Cressida, did you want to introduce the next discussion question?
Just because I was just thinking maybe I was gonna do it, and then I thought maybe to allow the people in the participants to ask, like to talk about anything that might be of concern to them.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to send the chat box or the Q&A.
I was just curious in regards to peer mentorship among Black nursing students. How is that going on campus? Is it happening? I can ask Ola because she's on she's on virtual campus.
Yeah, actually, there are peer mentorship programs going on in my school. So where the peer mentor will talk about ways to succeed in school, tips in studying and whatnot. So they actually do have all those things, but there isn't actually one for Black nurses.
Okay.
You know, yeah, so it's just generic, but not for Black nurses.
Okay. So is this something that we can, you know, make a reality for Black nurses? Is it something we can start up?
Yes, because in the past I actually thought about it, but I am just so busy with schoolwork that I cannot manage all of that right now. But that is something I would love to see happen. You know, just a community of Black nurses where we can come together, talk about our experiences, whatever challenges we're facing, and, you know, even motivate each other. That is something I can probably look into. Yeah, I would love to see that happen because we have to start off somewhere.
That's right. Thank you.
We have a question that came in, and for any of the panelists or their co-chairs, are there any mentorship programs for nurses looking to transition into a master's program? So specifically talking about going from an undergraduate nursing program and then proceeding to a master's that you know of.
Can I speak to that? So when I finished my undergraduate and wanted to pursue my master's immediately, I had no direction in terms of, you know, I went directly to the nursing department, and they told me that you know, according to York's policy, you have to wait a year. You have to gain that clinical experience before you can further your master's. But somehow I was more interested in education too, the educational piece. So I was able to enroll right away, but I found that information out for myself. And you'd be surprised how many students I've had while teaching clinical that have asked me the same question, and I've been able to tell them, like, you don't really need that clinical experience to pursue other kinds of masters. It's only specific to nursing. But you know, I had to find out for myself, and so yes, it would be great to have some form of direction and Black mentorship for students, Black students that want to pursue their masters. Absolutely.
I'd like to add to that. The clinical experience following the baccalaureate degree does come important if you're doing a master's that has a thesis in it, because usually you generate your research questions from your clinical experience. So your clinical experience play a very good role in helping to shape what you're going to do at thesis or any future research in. I know you could read the literature and see where there are gaps in the literature and go around that route in order to generate interest in a research thesis or maybe publication. But basically, most of the people, and I do teach a course, and I'm willing to share that with people, help people to develop a research question from clinical practice, where you identify an interest and work that through into a research question. I used to teach it in one of my master's courses at UFT, and I've done it for different interest groups. But you don't have to focus on all the 5 years of clinical experience if you're going to do a master's that is non-thesis. For the thesis, it is important to have some clinical experience. Otherwise, it takes a long time to get to identifying what you want to do your research on. And I also like to encourage people to do a master's that have a thesis, because it helps you to go into the PhD program very easily. I did that stream, so I'm a bit for it. My master's degree also had a thesis. It does take longer when you have to do a thesis, but it helped me to move forward very quickly to do my PhD once I got enrolled.
I want to add to Angela's comment. I think, and maybe we are both old-fashioned, but take it seriously. So I was very, very young when I went into nursing. After 3 years, you needed to do 4 years more to get the baccalaureate. So 7 years. That's the way it used to be. And also in this country, that's the way that used to be. And I remember when a professor, I remember her face and her harsh Hebrew, when she called me to the office to announce to me that when I do my master's, she said, and I thought, are you out of your mind? In my mind, I said, because I was this pregnant and I already had done 7 years for this baccalaureate. And she said, you do it in a clinical area because you are going to be a leader in nursing, and nursing is clinical work. So it's stuck there. But what I want to tell is not about a master in clinical area or a PhD in clinical area, but absolutely, in my view, I can tell you from kilometers of distance, from one country to another, I can tell you. A person that is a leader that was at one point expert and loved clinical work, and a person that never did clinical work and became a leader. Very, very, very different type of leaders. So that advice of having a clinical experience, whether it is for the PhD or and identify the question more sharply and more clearly, like Angela is saying, or whether it is because you will be a chief nurse in a hospital or the Minister of Health for that matter, what people are doing on gaining those clinical passion, I call it. It's not about the competencies, it's the love for clinical work. You can smell it from a distance when people don't have it. So it's not time wasted, it's time gained.
Yes.
Because it makes a huge difference in my view.
I concur with Doris. It makes a difference. You have a manager who have gone through that experience working at the bedside. She or he has more empathy being a manager, because some of the errors people make, somebody who's never gone through that or have enough experience, they don't identify with some of the issues people might encounter at clinical practice.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Even as a clinical instructor right now, I still work bedside up to 2 to 3 shifts a week. My experience is totally different from my colleagues' experience that work once in 6 months at the bedside. So I can relate to, the student experience very easily, so it's totally different. I totally agree.
I just want to, commend RNAO for this. It's like, when I first saw this, Black Nurses Task Force, there is no other, nursing organization in Canada that has recognized the need to actually implement something. And I think the mentorship program would be, the question, someone asked was the link between undergraduate and grad. And I see a lot of students, that are a lot of Black people, because they do not have the social network and social capital to know what resources are available. They really, they are brilliant, they're smart, they're intelligent, but they do not know, for example, they don't know, how to apply for awards, when are awards deadlines due, how to position themselves for success, how to turn that paper into a publication, and get moving with it, or where the jobs are. So I think in terms of, given that RNAO is creating a mentorship program, one thing that would be important is, how do we, mentor people at different stages of their career, including people that are PhD students, already have a master's, are PhD students, and are trying to also get there. And I know on the platform, some people have asked about mentor, getting a mentor, but I would also encourage anyone that is asking about mentor to also think about also mentoring someone else too, so that we actually pass on the on the baton. So you're a master's student, you're looking at for a mentor to get a PhD. Yes, someone has helped you now. And that's how, my high school mentorship program, that's how it started is, someone has mentored me. I need to turn this into 30, transform it into the lives of 30 other youths. So I would encourage people to think about that.
Definitely connect with you, Dr. Bukola.
Sure.
I would like to add that I do agree, because as a nursing student, before I was a member of the Black Nurses Task Force, it felt like I was lost, because I would question myself. I knew I wanted to do more, but I don't see a lot of Black people who were doing what I would like to do. So it made me, the dreams were just fading. But when I became a member of the task force, even attending webinars, seeing a lot of Black leaders coming to speak to me, it's made me realize that I can be like those people, and this actually help if I make an effort. Because when I see them, what I have to do is make an effort to reach out to them, because I believe the Black leaders would definitely assist me. So yeah, I'm really proud. I'm proud of the Black Nurses Task Force.
Thank you, Ola, for sharing that. And if it were up to
And
me,
we are proud of you, Ola.
we are.
Thank you.
And if it were up to me, we'd be on this call until 9 or 10, because there's so many more questions now coming in that the conversation is going. But I will hand it over to Angela to inform you of our next webinar date and time, and to deliver some closing remarks.
Okay, our next webinar is...
Angela, ask them to do the survey before they go to sleep tonight. The link is there.
Okay, will do. Our next webinar is scheduled for March the 15th at the same time from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And I hope you would join us. And I think it's on mental health. And I don't have the topic flushed out in my mind, but I think it's on mental health. So I want to thank you for participating tonight in the event. I thank all our panelists for their contributions, for the discussions. And we extend our warm gratitude to all of our speakers for your excellent informative contribution to the panel discussion tonight. Please email Brittany with any feedback or any ideas you have that you would like us to continue to provide in webinars. And of course, don't forget to fill out that survey, how you're doing with COVID or the impact of COVID on you. Today's the last day to do it. So get on tonight and make sure you complete that, so we have the input, and we are better able to help you based on your input on that survey. Thank you so much. And thanks for your participation. Have a wonderful evening.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you to all the participants.